And then they said, hey, Sabrin, what do you call this guy, Elon Musk? Nobody knows him. I don't know him then as well. So I pick up the phone on Christmas Eve. And he picked up the other phone on the other line in LA and said, why don't we meet up? So I flew to LA and meet up with him. And those days he was still small. Yeah. And the journey became more interesting because he wanted to show his gratitude for the support, wanted us to be part of his ecosystem, offering us to be taking 10% shares of SpaceX and offering me to be on the board of SpaceX, which then I bring back to the government. The government said no, and I just look at the numbers today. If that 10% shares is few $billion US dollars. Yeah. He spent all the money that he got from selling PayPal, $200 million US dollars. And he spent all the money and he is almost bankrupt because there's no more money. And I said, Malaysia saved him. And now SIRIM has become a global brand. Not just in Malaysia, we are recognized in 134 countries all over the world. I always have this KPI that I need to have at least an impression of 1 million people a day.
So welcome back on the show. This is Julien Drolon, your host. Today I have an immense pleasure to guest someone I've been looking forward to guest for a long time because I've been following him on LinkedIn since last year. Dato Indra Engineer Dr. Ahmad Sabrin Arshad. Thank you so much, Dato, for taking your time to come after a long day of work to do this podcast with me. I really appreciate your work. I've been following you for the past few months, and I was so impressed how prolific you are. On LinkedIn, you are one of the most followed CEO in Malaysia, one of the most prolific creator of posts, and of course, you are the president and CEO of SIRIM, which I don't have to introduce to all Malaysians know how important is SIRIM, which is a government agency under the Ministry of MITI, Investment. So thank you so much. We have a lot of things to discuss in 30 minutes. But the first thing that caught my attention is this post on Facebook that you did a couple of years ago about your relationship with Elon Musk when he wanted to start his satellite enterprise, and that actually Malaysia was, through your company, the first one who gave him a chance. So if you can take us back in time, the phone rang late December 2003, and Elon Musk is on the phone, and he wants to start to engage with you and your company.
Okay, thank you for having me on this podcast. And in fact, it has been a conversation for myself, the team, and the government as well. During those days, we wanted to launch a satellites. And rather than launching a satellite to a normal orbit, we wanted to launch this to near equatorial orbit. And nobody goes there. Why do we want to go to this orbit? Because we are on the equator. And it benefits us a lot more compared to sending the satellites to polar orbiting from pole to pole. So I was talking to all these friends all over the world, from Airbus, from different launch service providers. And then they said, hey, Sabrin, what do you call this guy, Elon Musk? Nobody knows him. I don't know him then as well. So I pick up the phone on Christmas Eve. And he picked up the other phone on the other line in LA and said, why don't we meet up? So I flew to LA and meet up with him. And those days he was still small. There would have been like 10, 20 people of engineers in a small shack in El Segundo.
I see.
So it was very encouraging to see a businessman. And then he asked me, he said, Sabrin, do you know who I am? I said, I don't know who you are. I said, a friend of mine gave me your contacts. Then he told about himself, about his PayPal journeys and whatnot. And he said that he's a multimillionaire. But I said, come on, don't pull my legs, because where you are, your setup is so simple.
Yes.
It doesn't resemble any millionaire perspective at all. But he's so down to earth then. I'm not sure about now. And
Things
then,
have changed a little bit. He bought
and
Twitter.
then yes, and I said, okay. I said I wanted to launch my satellites to this orbit, and he, like any good entrepreneurs, the person that said yes, he can do it, even though he cannot do it.
Okay.
So I always say like this, like a Chinaman in Malaysia said, yes, I can do it first, then find out how to do it.
Figure it out.
And then he showed me that he can do from Cape Canaveral, from different places in the States. But none of this works because there's a huge energy requirement to launch our satellites. Until then I said, why don't you find me a place on the equator? So they put this on big map then. We used to look at Atlas at those times. And he looked at this little place called Quadrillion Island. And this small little atoll. And that belongs to America. Then he bought a little atoll.
Okay.
So he can put that launch site there. So, and then we went to the launch site, preparing for the launch and whatnot. And in fact, we stayed with him for the last, from 2003, 2009, about 6 years. Because I said to him, do not put my satellites until you qualify your launch vehicle. He never did launch vehicle. He was a novice. He got to bring in all these engineers to LA. And I asked him, you move down from San Francisco, Silicon Valley to LA. Why don't you move them up to LA? He said he cannot move that mountain. He has to come to the mountain. And the engineers don't want to relocate themselves to Silicon Valley. They want to remain in LA. And so despite that conversation, I said to him, I don't want to risk my satellites. It's our important satellites to be launched. And it has to be successful. And the first thing that he did, he put up the satellites and it fails. I said, until you qualify your launch, then you can put on our satellites.
So at the time, you were the CEO of Astronautics Technologies under Reha, correct?
ATSB, which is a government-owned company.
Yes, it was under the Ministry of Finance.
Ministry of Science. Owned by Ministry of Finance, but under Ministry of Science.
Okay.
Like today, SIRIM is owned by Ministry of Finance, under the Ministry of MITI. And he did 4 launches, and it all fails. He did 3 launches, it fails. The 4th one succeeded. Can you imagine that he has spent all his money? And I asked him, how much have you spent to get this one right? He spent all the money that he got from selling PayPal, about $200 million. And he spent all the money, and he is almost bankrupt because there's no more money. And I said, Malaysia saved him. When he did that successful launch on the 5th launch, our Rasaksat to the orbit, NASA gave him $1 million. NASA said, find the first commercial customers. Even Americans don't trust him then. So Malaysia, being a small little country out in Asia, trusted him, sending our satellites to space. And the journey became more interesting because he wanted to show his gratitude for the support. He wanted us to be part of his ecosystem, offering us to be taking 10% shares of SpaceX and offering me to be on the board of SpaceX, which then I bring back to the government. The government said no, and I just look at the numbers today. If that 10% shares is few $billion US dollars, but it's a good story to tell. I said, it is not mine, it is not mine.
Because you were doing it for your country
I'm
as
doing
well.
it for the country. I cannot have that conflict of interest.
And under the blessing of your government.
And
but this is a very relevant story, that especially because they were talked, especially last year in August. And the Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, has been talking about bringing Elon Musk's Tesla factory, not only in Malaysia, but there was also other candidates like Thailand, Indonesia. And at the end of the day, up until today, Elon Musk has not really invested in the region officially. Now that we know the background with Malaysia, we would expect that it will be more pulled, attracted to invest in Malaysia. According to you, what are the factors that are still lacking for Tesla to come in Malaysia? Because there's multiple factors. There's economical factor. We were talking about competition with China. some business losses. The losses he had, those are the official reason. But according to you, you know him maybe better than most of Malaysians. What are the reasons why you think he's still not coming and invested in the region?
I think the bigger maybe setback here is the anti-infrastructures. He's looking for a bigger market.
I see.
But having said that, Malaysia can still become a market for him to go into ASEAN.
Yeah.
But he needs to have the infrastructure. He needs to have the raw materials to support his EV car as well, which we may not have it as much as what the other countries is having it. But I think if we can put a grand proposition to Elon today, he might want to think again what Malaysia can do to bring himself to the world. Because again, Elon today is different than Elon then, because he is being invited to all these countries in the world.
Yes.
Everybody is offering him. But maybe we have to change some of our policies to make it more attractive for him to bring in the ecosystems. But Malaysia need to become a more automotive industry centric. We are not there yet. We may have been having Proton for many years, but the numbers is still not there. We have the best factories for automotive industries in Tanjung Malim. That is the fully robotic factories, the best in the world. But we don't have the numbers to support that activities. So the smart partnership with Geely, for example, or maybe for some other companies in the futures, needs to be done to transform Malaysia to the next level. Maybe Elon Musk shouldn't be coming here just to set up his factory, but he should be coming to set up investment portfolios in Malaysia. And I think there should be much more credibilities if we can offer the entire value chain for him to be in Malaysia. But to me, nothing is lost because he is a businessman. He likes to discuss and he likes to win.
Yes.
So Malaysia should be positioning itself as the hub into ASEAN. And there's 600 million population there.
For sure, and you're right about the market he's looking at, because I was in Turkey last year doing a business report, and also President Erdogan was quoting him, and there was some talks he would be in Turkey, but he chose India, for example, because obviously the market speak by itself.
If you look into, I've always said this one again and again, I said, the two countries that you have to pay attention is China and India. These are the elephant and the dragon economy. 1 billion population, you can never go wrong. And they are not cheap anymore. China is expensive, India is expensive. But they got the economy that can sustain itself. And the competition that is running today is really pushing the boundary of technology to the brings of new invention. And then you know what happens to DeepSeek last
let's shake the whole AI ecosystem.
That's very disruptive.
And now Alibaba also
is coming. Quen 2.5 and then you see, and then that's what I say, when Elon started his SpaceX, that was disruptive. So you need to have something disruptive to make sure that you are appealing to the world. But will Tesla be the most lucrative car in the future? You don't know, because BYD is now number 1. And they can sell this one at a cheaper price with a high quality. People always associated China with low quality, but then today, BYD is one of the better or the best qualities in terms of EV car, in terms of technologies for batteries, in terms of mechanical, and in terms of the performance. It outclass all the other competitions. And that's why European companies are also grouping together, trying to compete with BYD. And I was in China last 2 months, and they have not just BYD, they got more than 100 brands in China, and only a few is known to the world. And they're selling their EV cars in supermarket. And they don't have these EV cars like a showroom. They got, if you go to their big malls, it is sold at their supermarket. And I have not seen anybody in the world, anywhere in the world, that sells car in a shopping malls.
And that stage,
and then it is so quiet.
I think if you want to innovate, you just have to go to China, and then you will find a lot of things that is not yet in your country, and you will have an edge with the competition.
Yes.
Because they have so much R&D capacity. And talking about R&D, I'm interested to, of course, dive into SIRIM because you are celebrating this year the 50 years. And what are the things that you want the Malaysians, first and foremost, to remember about the legacy that you've been building with your team over the past few years? And 50 years means a lot, you know. What are the things, the highlights of SIRIM's adventure in the entrepreneurial world, and how you've been supporting the Malaysian economy as a whole? If you can summarize it for our viewers.
I think maybe people have forgotten the size of SIRIM when we were created more than 50 years ago. We become SIRIM in 1997, and during those days we were joined between two agencies, that between Standard and Research to become one, and now SIRIM has become a global brand. Not just in Malaysia, we are recognized in 134 countries all over the world. But in terms of what have we achieved last 50 years, SIRIM is always associated with safety and quality. And whenever Malaysians, especially if they were to buy anything, electrical products, they look for the SIRIM signs. And then they have confidence to buy those products. If you want to buy a rice cooker, you want to buy electric telephone, but everything is all SIRIM marks everywhere. So that's a sign of acceptance by the communities. And I think that's the biggest achievement that we have achieved. And we are able to be recognized in 134 countries. So our test that we do in Malaysia is at par or not better than all these countries in the world.
Yes.
And I think moving forward, the next 50 years is going to be much more challenging, because there'll be more automation, more AI embedded into the ecosystem. How can we then position ourselves to be the next frontier of technologies that is disruptive yet beneficial to Malaysian? And that's what we wanted to do. And it is never easy. And in fact, now I am doing this with a team at SIRIM, crafting the new transformation that we want to enjoy for next many years to come. And I said to the team as well, if we don't reinvent ourselves, the raison d'etre, ask that again and again, we may not be relevant anymore, because there are many giants that's coming to Malaysia, and people have forgotten. In Malaysia alone, we got about 84 companies competing with SIRIM. We are not monopolizing the entire ecosystem. There are 84 other companies, the big brands from international companies coming to set up offices in Malaysia. So what we do now, our part of our strategy is to go global. You come to our turf, we go to your territory as well. So we have gone to China last year. We have been there for now our second year. It has shown huge progress. And now we're looking at maybe a few more branches in China, set up in India, in Middle Eastern countries, go Europe, and big in ASEAN. So the market capture is going to be huge. And the target that we are looking at is having SIRIM to achieve 1 billion ringgit in 2027.
That's impressive.
So that's a new mindset altogether.
Don't wait for the people to come to your market.
Yes, we go marketing aggressively. We don't undercut in terms of costing. I said, you pay our services because we are good, not because we are cheap. And I said, we do not sacrifice the integrity of our reports, of our testing, because we want to be sure that we are good. But the pillars of all of this is research. Research has to be part of the entire ecosystem, because without research and innovation, the country cannot move on. Testing, inspection, certification, all this calibration works is important, but it has to be supported by an innovation that will drive this to the next level. And we want to become the market leader, we want to become the industry leader. And in terms of how do we impact the industries, in fact, for the last many years, most of the industries in Malaysia has got some SIRIM intervention. Either they are receiving our testing by SIRIM, inspected by SIRIM, our certification, our R&D, our training, all by. So we have almost all industries. We have touched lives.
Actually, I have to touch upon that, because the first time I heard about you, because obviously I'm not Malaysian, I'm from France, it was during an interview with DSR Taiko, Berhad, and they mentioned that they had a SIRIM certificate basically to traceable to trace the durian for authentication of Musang King. So even in agriculture, a lot of people, when they think about SIRIM, they think about, as you said, electronics, but even in agriculture, you're already present. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that, because maybe not everybody knows you are touching many sectors, but specifically because last week our guest was the CEO of DSR Tyco. So I think it's quite relevant to what we just discussed last week.
Why we are doing this for DSR Tyco, and why are we interested in Musang King? Musang King is the king of fruit for Malaysia. It's our signature fruit for the countries, and it is geographically signature for Malaysia. If we don't protect this IP for Musang King, people will copy this and or they proclaim this is Musang King like. So we want to make sure that whatever is being exported from Malaysia, if they were to enjoy any durian, if they can pay premium price, it has the traceability back to the orchard. So you know which orchard, what time does it fall down, when does it send overseas. We can, in fact, I think partners DSR Tyco, they can also deliver this within 24 hours for the consumers to enjoy the fresh durian overseas. So this can be vacuum packed and sent abroad. It can be packaged and frozen for people to enjoy for at least 1 year. And then they know which tree, which fruit, and then now what we're going to make sure that the consumers will know that this is an organic trees. It doesn't have any chemical intervention. So it's going to be the entire ecosystem. But most importantly, we don't want the consumers to be cheated when they buy Musang King.
Especially because it's your national product. So it is your brand. It's a bit like French wine for the French, like the Bordeaux. You know, a lot of people did Bordeaux elsewhere in Australia, but the origin, the breed is always coming from France, for example.
Because people try to copy this Musang King in China.
In Philippines also.
In Philippines, but then it's not the same. Because the soil is different, the climate is different. So you want to make sure that people pay premium price for the right Musang King.
What they get,
And many ordinary people cannot tell which brand and which brand. They all look the same. So that's
you're helping
we're helping the industries to grow and to protect the industries from being cheated and the consumer from being cheated by all this illegal transaction overseas.
Now, coming back to your expansion and your willingness to grow globally, you recently were appointed by Asia as Asia Pacific representative at the World Association of Industrial and Technological Research Organizations. That's something that was highlighted last November. How important is this recognition in your strategy to go global? How can you leverage this representation? It's going to be between 2025 2026. If you can share with me and our viewers the significance for SIRIM and yourself.
No, SIRIM has been in Waitru ecosystem for the last 16 years. And then we disappeared for last few years. And then I said that this year onward, SIRIM must be in the global scene. We must take leadership either in research organization internationally. We must take leadership in the legal metrology forum as well. So we are also the president for Asia Pacific Legal Metrology Forum. So Malaysia must take presence in the international scene. If we wanted to be in the global players, we must be taken seriously as a global research organization. And being the members of executive board on Waitru, it gives us the opportunities to serve the executive board at the highest level. And then we are focusing on Asia Pacific as well. So this networking among all these research organizations will create this smart partnership and benchmarking. How do we can become the best of RO research organization in the world? Because research organization is expensive business. It takes years before you can see the results. But if we can share some knowledge, some equipment, some findings, maybe we can cut short some of the processes, or maybe we can learning not to make the same mistake that they have done as well. So these are something that we wanted to do, and I firmly believe that this ecosystem of Waitru will take us next level in terms of the R&D for Malaysia.
Now you can also capitalize this year on the 2025 chairmanship of Malaysia at the ASEAN leader. While driving to KL for this podcast, I was seeing a big billboard, and it reminded me. I have to ask you about this. How do you plan to capitalize on this? especially to grow in the region and offer your services to our neighboring countries who are maybe not as advanced in R&D than you?
No, for this year, it will be very, very exciting because not just we are celebrating our 50th of anniversary at SIRIM, we are hosting the ASEAN chairmanship. And at MITI, we are going to be holding many meetings in terms of the official meetings and the senior ministers meeting. And we are making plans for them to visit SIRIMs. And some of the LDCs, least developed countries, has taken SIRIM as their model where they can emulate.
A
They wanted
benchmark.
They wanted to set up the first standard. They wanted to set up the first calibration measurement capabilities. They want to set They want to set up SIRIM like in their own countries. So we're taking to Cambodia, Laos, and whatnot. So the government has encouraged us to go to these countries to help them. And we wanted to make sure that Malaysia has got this technology diplomacy that can be offered by the Prime Ministers when he overshared the meeting later on. In fact, we have been engaging with many stakeholders in Malaysia. How can we promote technology diplomacy, standard diplomacies, SIRIM industry standard diplomacy, and R&D diplomacies to all these countries? We want to bridge between the have and have-nots in ASEAN especially. And I always emphasize that ASEAN is a big melting pot of 600 million people. If we can make it like Europe, this is the new ASEAN, like EU in Europe, where people can cross border between one or two countries. This is huge economy that we shouldn't ignore. And if we do trading, we should do trading in between our own neighbors. That is between ASEAN, and then you got the richest like Singapore and the poorest also in ASEAN. How can we bridge that gap? How can we have one ASEAN that is having almost similar cost of living and incomes as well? So it's a challenge, but many years ago, Europe has got that issues as well between Western and Eastern Europe, and they have somehow bridged that, close that gap over the last many years. And then ASEAN should be doing something similar as well.
Actually, today, while preparing the podcast, I was also listening to Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and he was saying that many people ask me about what to do in disruptive economy, but the question is, what are the things that are not going to change so we can build sustainable businesses? What are the things, due to your experience, what are the things that you see will still be there at the end of the day and that will still be needed of SIRIM as a partner for the growth of our economy? Because everybody's passionate to talk about AI. What are the things that you think that at the end of the day it will remain there and SIRIM will have a share in that ecosystem?
Yes, we talk about AI taking maybe changing the entire lifestyle of what we do today, but the human interaction remains. The importance of connecting with other human remains important, and SIRIM, despite of wanting to promote the technological advancement, but we remain on the ground, solid on the ground, to make sure that we interact as human, the human touch, because AI doesn't have feelings.
Correct.
And then in Islam, there is such thing as ihsan, where we have empathy. So we want to make sure that we have that empathy. That's something that I learned over the last many years as well. You don't break the rules, but you can bend the rules. And that's something that we wanted to tell people as well, that you can do many things if you are interacting with one another. But people are drifting away from those values today. People are so much on internet, on connectivity, and they feel restless when they don't have that connectivity. Yet, when they want to go overseas for holidays, they want to be disconnected.
Yes.
And I say we have that years ago, and we shouldn't be controlled by technology. We should be the masters of technology. And that's why humans are still important.
For many, it becomes like a drug because it acts like a dopamine.
It is.
And we need, and I observe myself, for a long time. I like to say, like, I'm fasting from my phone for 24 hours, but it is difficult, when you get, and then you realize you're not talking to your family sometimes. But what I love about Malaysia is you still take care of your community. You celebrate multi-racial celebration. We just celebrated the Chinese New Year here, and there's always this need of gathering together, which other culture, other countries lost. So when you talk about humanity, and that's why a lot of people are moving to Southeast Asia, actually, because they don't have this at home, back home, you know. So this is really hopefully something that that region can still offer to the world.
And if you see last December when we celebrated Christmas as a Muslim nation, people were they were kind of pleasantly surprised to see that Malaysia celebrate Christmas. And in Malaysia we celebrate diversity. And it's a Muslim nation. But we allow others to practice as well. And in the last few days, we have Chinese New Year. Next week, we have Thai Pusam. So there's a lot of... And one thing that we, maybe foreigners is looking at Malaysia, we have too many holidays.
We never get all of it.
I think one of the countries that enjoy too many holidays in the world is Malaysia.
And it
never
ends.
It is amazing. And I say that if we can understand each other better through all these holidays, then we can live in a better world, much better world. And then the world is a vulnerable place, a small little planet in the entire universe that we must take care for the future generations to live.
Thank you so much. One last question is about your LinkedIn account, because when I was preparing our interview last Saturday, I counted you did 55 posts in one day. And I really thought I need to ask you, what's your secret? Because you must have you must use AI or specific software, because humanly, I thought it's impossible. And while walking here with a small chat, and you told me, no, actually, it comes all from me. And sometimes I struggle to do one post on LinkedIn. And I know many people are following you on LinkedIn. So I wanted to be the first to tell them who are following you that it comes all from you, right?
Yes.
This is fantastic.
In fact, I started this one last 4 years. And I'm a newbie in LinkedIn. I don't know many things yet, how to do many of the tricks. And people don't believe that when I say that I'm doing this myself. I am the human AI that is posting. Yes, I'm scheduling all these posts, but I'm doing interaction myself as well, because part of the tricks for AI, the one I understood from the algorithm, you must comment on posting that was done by other people.
Others,
You must also repost some of the posting as well. And then you must give comments on whatever post that you have done. So imagine you have this post, and I always have this KPI that I need to have at least an impression of 1 million people a day.
Wow.
So I need to have that engagement. And the nice thing that when I like doing LinkedIn, because I got message from all over the world thanking me for the post that keeps them feeling alive again, keep positive, moving forward. They enjoy reading it, and that keeps me going. And I think that's my dopamine, like you said. And maybe I'm a bit over the top doing it, but I do enjoy as much as I can help the next person. I am very much happy to do so. And today, like I said, crossing the 100,000 and followers. So it is a lot of work. It doesn't happen by itself, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I hope that I have the energy to do it for many years to come.
Now, you inspire a lot of people. You're also quite strong on Instagram, but I have to say, I was looking forward to meet you, because some of your posts really impacted me. And I thank you for the wisdom you're sharing, and I wish you a fantastic year with SIRIM, and I'm looking forward to visit your headquarters in Charlam some of these days. Thank you so much, Dato.
Thank you so much.